welcome to the stage Rory. He's going to be talking about mining the SERPs for SEO, content, and customer insights. A big round of applause, everybody, please.
Hello, Brighton SEO. Thank you so much for coming to see me today. I'm going to be speaking to you about mining the SERPs for SEO, content, and customer insights. So, a little bit about me. I am an SEO strategist at Conductor, which is an organic marketing technology that helps marketing teams track and grow their organic visibility. And in 2018, we were acquired by WeWork. Shortly after that acquisition, I was hired to lead SEO for WeWork across Europe, so that's what I do day to day. If you've got any feedback on the talk, or want to get in touch about the tool, get in touch at brightonseo@conductor.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'll be sharing the slides on Twitter at the end of the presentation, but if you want to follow along, you can get them there. And I want to talk a little bit today about what you can expect from this talk. So, the SERPs are a great resource to help you learn what Google thinks your customers want. So I'll be explaining why that's the case, and then talking through some workflows and some analysis that you can use to help you understand the intent of the people that you're trying to reach. And importantly, how you can use those insights to improve the quality of your on-page optimization and the overall reach of your SEO campaigns. So, now the formalities are out of the way, let's begin with a statistic. 84%, that's a big number. And that's actually the number of people that were surveyed that found these puppies adorable. And that means that 16% of people don't have a heart. But what's important to us is that that's how frequently Google is rewriting the SERP displayed meta description. And what I mean by that is that the meta description that you see displayed in the search engine results pages is different to the one that's defined in the HTML of the landing page. So Google is algorithmically rewriting that content for the SERP. So let's think about that for a moment. Why would Google do that? Do you think it does it just to make SEOs sad? Maybe. So do it just for a laugh? No, I don't think it does. I think Google does that because it thinks that it's smarter than us. And it might have a point. Think about how much data Google has got available to it to help it understand what a searcher wants. It makes sense that it would rewrite the search engine results pages to make sure it's delivering as high quality results as possible. So that's intriguing, but can we use that to our advantage? I believe we can. And I apologize, that's the last puppy picture. I'm joking, of course, there's loads more, so you don't need to be sad. So, how can you do this? The workflows that I'm going to talk you through are around deconstructing and analyzing the language that's displayed in the SERPs to help you learn what Google thinks your customers want. So, at this stage, I'm hoping you're curious. You might be thinking, okay, great. It's really important that I know what my customers want, but I'm an SEO and I'm judged on traffic. I'm judged on traffic that converts. This matters because we're in the age of semantic search, and we've been there for some time now. And that means that whenever we're speaking about on-page optimization as a tactic, Google isn't ranking a page based on how it uses a keyword, how frequently that keyword appears, or where in a page it appears. Google's providing accurate results based on intent, query context, and words relationships. So on-page optimization, as we're doing it today, is not about, well, it is about targeting a keyword, but it's about optimizing for those things, for intent, for context, topical relevance, and words relationships. So that's what we're going to look at today. Understanding customer intent and desire so you can tailor your messaging accordingly. Structuring your landing pages so you can really help Google understand context and making sure that it meets the needs of the searcher. And really why we should all care about this is that ultimately we want to create the best quality experiences for our audience because that's going to make them convert better and that's going to improve the profitability of our campaigns. And that's what we want to do. So to make this work, you're going to need a toolkit. The first thing you'll need is SERP content. So there's a picture of a SERP all those words, that's what we're trying to get. And there are 3 ways that you can get this. The first is that you can scrape it at scale with Screaming Frog. I've written about this at Search Engine Journal. You can follow a link to that article there. It's kind of clear instructions on how you can do that. Screaming Frog, last week, I think, actually published their own guide on this, which is another great resource. You can get your SERP content from an API. There's lots of them. They're easy to use, they're cost effective, so they're also worth checking out. Or if you want to test this at a smaller scale, you can look at using the Scraper extension from Chrome. It's really easy to use. You can right-click on an element of a page, scrape similar, and then you'll get a list of all that content that matches that element. And then you're going to need Jupyter Notebook. So what is Jupyter Notebook? That is the official definition. And I'm not going to read it because it's really long and full of technical jargon. And after I read it, I was stumped. So here's my definition. Jupyter Notebook is an environment on my laptop where I can learn Python by copying scripts created by people who are a lot smarter than me and breaking them or making them do something different. And that's the genius of Jupyter Notebook, is if you're a visual learner like I am, you can get these great scripts that already exist and kind of run through them line by line, check the output at each stage, and it really makes it clear what that code is doing. And I don't have time to go through the intricacies of Python and Jupyter Notebook today, unfortunately, but within the SEO community, there are some tremendous resources that already exist and people that will help you get started. So Robin Lord from Distilled is highlighted there because if you follow that link, he's created this really useful tutorial that exists on Dropbox, which contains everything you'll need to get started with Jupyter Notebook. Then in terms of scripts, Paul Shapiro, J.R. Oakes, Hamlet Batista, all incredibly smart people, share knowledge that is really useful, and you can go and find their scripts, and you can start running that in your Jupyter Notebook. So if you go through that process, what you'll end up with, hopefully, is your SERP content in a CSV, scraped, however you choose to do that, imported into a Jupyter Notebook, following the instructions that you can find in Robin's tutorial, and then you're ready to analyze the SERPs using Python. But before we go any further, there's a treat for you. I'm conscious that I'm speaking about Python, and I don't want that to seem inaccessible. So at the end of this presentation, to say thank you for listening, I'm going to be sharing a link to a Dropbox with 2 of the scripts I'll be running through and some example SERP content. And I'm doing that to make sure that you feel comfortable with these methodologies, and you'll be able to apply them for yourself. And you can use that as a starting point to get started with Jupyter Notebook. So it's really accessible. Don't be daunted by the fact that we're talking about Python. You can use it. You can own it. So before we dive in, there's an important process that we need to go through, and that's cleaning our SERP content. And this will be covered in the scripts that I'll share, but it's worth revisiting, because if you do any linguistic analysis of your own, you'll need to go through these steps. I also wanted an excuse to use that picture. So the first thing that you'll need to do is make everything lowercase and remove punctuation. Lowercase means that we avoid any duplication. Punctuation adds no value to our analysis, so we get rid of it. Remove stop words. Stop words are commonly occurring words in the English language, words such as of, or, and. Again, they add no value, so we can get rid of them. Tokenization. That's the process of chopping up a sentence into individual pieces, which are called tokens. And lemmatization, which is an optional process that you can go through. It can be useful for some analysis, which is where you convert a word back to its root. So playing would become play, crawling would become crawl. And what it means is that your SERP content, in our case, we're looking at a number of keywords that you might search if you're looking to get started with yoga, will transform from this into this. We can see that it's all lowercase, it's all comma separated, there are no stop words, and it's ready for analysis. And the first workflow that we can go through is n-gram co-occurrence. Very simply put, this is just a count of how many times a word or a combination of words appear in your SERP content. And the output that you'll get is this really useful visual, which gives you a snapshot of the frequently occurring phrases that exist within your SERP for your target set of keywords. And this is really useful because it clearly demonstrates the topics that your competitors are consistently covering on their landing pages. And not only this, because of that process that Google goes through, where it is rewriting the SERP content algorithmically, it gives us really useful insight into the types of phrases that Google might see as semantically or contextually relevant to a target set of keywords. So how do you apply this? There are a number of ways you can use it as a useful source of data for additional keyword research around a topic. It's very clear to help you demonstrate topical content gaps on your landing pages, and you can optimize your page by incorporating those semantically relevant phrases. And I wanted to give an example of how we might use that practically. So at Conductor, we set ourselves a challenge. We said, let's imagine we're building an electric car called the SERP XLT. What we did is we got the SERP content for around 100 keywords that you might search if you're looking to buy an electric car, and we ran it through that analysis. And what we found was these 6 topics consistently appearing within our SERPs: cost, range, time to charge, battery size, wheel drive, and towing capacity. But what's really important to remember here is not only the fact that we've got search volume data to reinforce why we want these topics covered on our landing pages, but we've got empirical evidence that shows these are the exact topics that our competitors are writing about on their pages. And that makes winning that argument with your product team or your design team about how your landing pages should be structured very simple. The next analysis that we can do is around part-of-speech tagging, which is an extension of n-gram co-occurrence, except we're able to isolate certain word types, such as nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and how they appear within our SERP. Nouns, so these are things. This is more of a drill down into those topics that we know our competitors are writing about. And again, it can really help you strengthen the argument around topical content gaps on your landing pages. Verbs, this is something that I find really interesting. So verbs are action words. And if you think about how, as an SEO industry, we speak about intent, we generally use kind of 4 broad buckets: informational, research, navigation, transactional. But what if we went a step beyond that and we started to think about the specific motivations of our searcher? If we look at the verbs that are consistently called out in our SERPs, that gives us really clear clues around how Google is interpreting intent. That's what Google thinks a user wants to do. That is their intent. And adjectives, descriptive words. This gives you a breakdown of the type of language that might resonate with a searcher. So again, how might we use that in practice? So in this example, I scraped the SERP content for around 100 keywords that you might use if you're looking to get a new credit card. So you can assume with a relative degree of confidence that if someone's searching for a credit card, it's ultimately going to be a transactional intent search. But whenever we start looking at the verbs that are co-occurring within the SERP, we get more of a specific drill down into what exact action and motivation they have. So that's a really clear intent clue that we can latch onto. Whenever we look at nouns, these gives us context clues. So these are words that clarify meaning. We can see that there's a prevalence of words around deals, transfers, points. And whenever we look at adjectives, we see a prevalence of words around interest-free, low interest. And we can make sure that if we are creating calls to action on our landing page, they are aligned with that, and we know that they're speaking to the needs of our searcher. How do you apply that? You can make sure that your landing pages are aligned with the intent of a searcher. If you're working with a team of copywriters, you can socialize this data, make sure it gets into their hands to help them understand the language that they should be using on their landing pages to speak to that audience. And again, tactically incorporate those semantically or contextually relevant keywords into your landing pages. Topic modeling. So the next workflow. So can we use NLP, natural language processing, to uncover topical trends that exist within the SERP. Again, that's the official description. You can go back and read that. I've taken the liberty of rewriting this. This is my topic modeling definition. OK, computer, here's some words, group them. And that's what it does. The visual that you'll see at the end of this workflow is this really nice visual where each bubble represents one of those topics. The bigger the bubble, the more prominent the topic within your data set. The further away the bubbles are, the more distinct those topics are. And then we get a breakdown of the most salient or important keywords within that particular topical group. And what's really interesting is that this visual is interactive. So as you can see on the screen there, you can browse it, you can share that with other teams, and it's a really useful resource. And this is so interesting because you're effectively leaning on Google's algorithm and the fact that it knows what searchers want to identify these topical areas of interest. And that can become a really powerful data point in your content ideation. So for example, each of those topical groupings could become a content pillar within your content strategy. So how do you apply this? Again, it becomes that really valuable data source for content ideation and informing content ideation accurately. It can be really useful for informing internal linking, for content recommendations. I believe the New York Times website, for example, uses topic modeling to power its content recommendation engine. And further evidence into the types of phrases that Google might see as semantically or contextually relevant to a keyword set. And this next section, I think, is really important. So I've been speaking to you around how these different processes and these different scripts can be applied to the SERPs, which is really useful for us. But what would happen if we could make that analysis and those scripts work across other data sources? Can we do that? Well, product reviews, they can be scraped at scale. Google My Business reviews, they can be scraped at scale. Reddit can be scraped. YouTube captions can be scraped at scale. Competitors and top-ranking pages, you guessed it, can scrape it. And what that means is that at our fingertips, through tools like Screaming Frog and DeepCrawl, we can have access to this huge range of user-centric content that's either being created by our audience or for our audience. And we can use that very same analysis that we've just applied to our SERPs to deconstruct trends across this huge corpus of user-centric content. And that's incredible power and knowledge that you can have at your fingertips with a simple script. It's pretty cool. What's also great is that what I'm talking to you about today is really just the tip of the iceberg. You can do so many other interesting things with this data. So for example, there's a UK fast food chain. We scraped their Google My Business reviews, and we applied sentiment analysis, so whether a review is positive or negative. And then we used Tableau, or you can also use Power BI, to create this really nice map graphic that shows where in the country there is positive and negative sentiment. So you could share this and say, you need to improve the quality of your restaurants in Scotland, for example. If you are interested in review mining for creating user-centric content, this works really well for that. So in this example, we've scraped the reviews from a software that most people in this room will use. And although the sentiment is overwhelmingly positive because it's simple, easy to use, and intuitive, the negative sentiment exists around it being buggy and slow. And that's really useful information for a marketing team, for engineers, for a product team to help them focus on the most important aspects of that software. So obviously, I don't want to discriminate against the cat people in the room. So here's a picture of an overwhelmed kitten. Because this has been a lot to take in. What does it all mean? Well, I hope that I've shown you today that the SERPs can give us incredible insight into what customers want. We can use Python to make getting these insights at scale accessible and efficient. We can use these insights to accurately align our pages with what Google sees as the intent of the search, and to improve how we optimize for semantic or contextual relevance. And finally, if we use these scripts, we can apply them to other data sources that are very user-centric and can give us incredible insights into our customers. So I'll be sharing these links on Twitter, but you can get the Python scripts that I've spoken to from this link, as well as some example SERP content. I'll be sharing the slides, but you can get them there. Some really useful resources that I recommend everyone read. That is it from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Rory. Some really generous resources there as well. I definitely recommend checking those out afterwards.